It conjures specific images, compounds, robes, charismatic figures, commanding absolute devotion from people who have visibly lost themselves. It places the phenomenon at a safe distance. This belief is one of the primary reasons the recruitment pattern works as consistently as it does. The architecture doesn't announce itself, doesn't arrive with iconography or ideology, or any of the surface markers people have been taught to recognize as warning signs. It arrives as belonging, as finally being understood. It is the first deliberate move in a sequence that has been replicated across high-control groups, relationships, organizations, and social structures for as long as documented human history reaches. It doesn't require a formal ideology or a physical location or even conscious intent on the part of the person deploying it. Between an environment that is genuinely nourishing and one that is architecturally designed to make you feel nourished. Love bombing is not simply excessive affection. It is the rapid and targeted delivery of exactly what the specific individual most needs to feel seen, valued, and safe. The reading is often intuitive rather than deliberate, particularly in individuals who have developed high social sensitivity through early environments that required it, and what follows is calibrated to it. The love bombing phase is characterized by an intensity of positive attention that exceeds what the relationship's timeline would naturally produce. The person feels chosen, not just liked, but specifically selected, as though out of everyone available. This feeling of being chosen is crucial to the architecture because it installs a specific emotional logic. The investment precedes the commitment, and by the time the commitment is requested, the emotional economy has already been structured around preserving what has been received. The love bombing phase also establishes a reference state, a peak emotional experience of belonging, that the relationship is fundamentally good, and that any deviation from it is temporary and correctable through the right behavior. What cult researchers call thought-terminating cliches and insider language, but which operates more broadly as the construction of a shared worldview that divides experience into two categories, as the gradual revelation of a way of seeing that feels more accurate, more sophisticated, more aligned with your own perceptions than the mainstream frameworks you've been operating with. The insider framework serves multiple architectural functions simultaneously. It creates cognitive bonding, the experience of shared understanding that makes the group feel like the only place where real thinking happens. And it begins the process of what researchers call thought reform, the gradual replacement of the individual's pre-existing evaluative framework with one that is supplied and maintained by the group. Found lacking and filed as evidence of the outside world's inability to see clearly. The distinction matters because one feels like control, and the other feels like clarity. The third phase is incremental boundary dissolution, the gradual restructuring of the individual's time, relationships, and identity investments in ways that increase dependency on the group and decrease connection to outside anchors. This phase rarely presents itself as restriction. It presents as deepening. Outside relationships that express concern are handled through a specific reframe. They're operating from the limited perspective of someone who hasn't accessed the insider framework. This reframe is one of the most elegant pieces of the architecture because it converts the most protective resource available to the target, the concern of people who know them well and are not inside the system, into evidence of the system's validity. On the right attitudes, the right commitments, the right response to the group's needs and the leader's or partner's expectations. The conditionality is rarely stated explicitly in early stages. It is transmitted through the withdrawal of warmth following deviation. It's through the social temperature drop that follows a question asked too directly, or a boundary held too firmly, through the particular quality of disappointment that arrives when the person fails to perform the expected loyalty. The monitoring itself is a form of capture. It occupies cognitive and emotional resources. It makes the relationship feel like work, even as the official narrative maintains that it is home. And because the monitoring is self-generated, because the person is doing it to themselves, from the inside, it doesn't feel like control. It feels like care. What makes the recruitment pattern extraordinarily difficult to exit? The person's sense of self has become partially constituted by their membership in the group or relationship. They have not just joined something, they have become someone who belongs to it. Their insider knowledge, their shared framework, their investment of time and identity and relationship capital, their experience of being chosen, all of these have been integrated into a self-concept that cannot disentangle itself from the group without losing coherence. This is why the question, why don't they just leave, misunderstands the architecture entirely. It requires not just walking away from a group or a person, but dismantling a version of yourself that was built inside the system and does not have a clear form outside it. The people who exit high-control dynamics most successfully are not the ones who are convinced intellectually that the system was harmful. They appear in romantic relationships where the love-bombing phase is followed by gradual isolation and conditional belonging. In professional environments where insider culture, specialized language, testing produce the same incremental capture. In friendship dynamics, family systems, online communities, and ideological spaces where the architecture runs without anyone having consciously designed it, because the pattern doesn't require a designer. The signal that distinguishes genuine belonging from architectural belonging is, in the end, a simple one, though it is not always easy to access from the inside. Genuine belonging expands you. It increases your capacity, your range, your willingness to engage with the world outside it, slowly, incrementally, in ways that are always framed as deepening rather than narrowing. But the direction is unmistakable if you are willing to measure it honestly. Are you larger than you were before you entered, or smaller? That question, held clearly and answered honestly, is more protective than any knowledge of the pattern's mechanics. Because the mechanics can be explained away. The direction of your own growth cannot.